In this video, we're going to have a look at the Microsoft Applied Skills develop generative AI solutions with Azure OpenAI Service. Hello, I'm Philip Burton of idodata.com. So the Microsoft Applied Skills generative AI solutions was released in the middle of January 2024. And let's take a look at what skills are needed. First of all, the tasks performed are deploy an Azure OpenAI resource and model, generate natural language responses, apply prompt engineering techniques, generate and improve code, generate images with DALL-E, and use Azure OpenAI on your data. However, we've also got you need to have experience developing applications by using C# or Python. So the implication is that you need to be able to do this in association with C# or Python as well as in the portal. So let's see how you can do this. First of all, you go to portal.azure.com and you search for Azure OpenAI and you create a new resource. So here's one I created earlier. However, you won't be able to immediately create a resource. If you go to create, you will find first time that you will have to apply to create an Azure OpenAI resource. And that can typically take 24 hours. It could take up to a week. So let's open my existing resource and go to Azure OpenAI Studio. So here we can deploy a model. So if I go on the left-hand side to deployment and create new deployment, here you can deploy a GPT 3.5 or 4. GPT, you've heard of ChatGPT. Well, GPT is the generative pre-trained transformer, and this is what ChatGPT uses. So once you've deployed the model, you can then use the chat playground. For example, describe a rose. And there we get an answer. But we can also change the system message. For example, you are William Shakespeare. So I'll apply the changes and I'll do exactly the same thing. Describe a rose and we get something a bit more Shakespearean. Or you are a pirate. And again, we'll get something a bit more in that vein. Now, you can also add examples. So this is what you want to see. And then, so you can give it a series of prompts and answers and say, this is what we want to see. And you can also set the maximum response in tokens. A token is around 4 English characters, or temperature, or top P. You'll also need to know about primary content. So in this case, describe a rose. Cues. So I want your answer to look a bit like. And supporting content. For example, I want you to focus on the following. You can also generate code. For example, if I go back to our default system message, I can say, create some code in SQL, which joins 2 tables, an employee and transaction table together. Now, I've not given it enough information, but it gives a broad outline of how you can do this. You can also add section dividers, and you can also continue the conversation. So what other fields should I include? And it knows what we're talking about. It knows that we're talking about the previous code. And then I can say, can you describe this code? And it can go into some more detail about the code. You can also write the start to a code and ask it to continue. You can also ask for a unit test. In other words, call a function and tell me what the answer should be. And you can also say what's wrong with any particular code. Ask for improvements. You can also convert between languages and specify a library or an API. Now, you also need to know how to program in Python and C#. If we go to View Code, then you can see we've got some code here for Python. This code uses the library that was in existence in around August-September 2023. Now we've gone on from 0.28.1 to 1.11 and beyond. and unfortunately some of the code doesn't actually work in the later version. So you need to be able to understand this code. So how we call the OpenAI, for instance, how we can use environment variables. Here's the message text that we're putting into the openai.chatCompletion.create. We need to know how to use temperature and max tokens and top P, for instance. Looking at it in C#, again, this uses a version that was around August, July 2023. We're currently on the -beta.13, and again, in the latest version, some of this code will no longer work. So it uses chat message, for instance, whereas from beta 10 onwards, you use chat request system message and chat request user message. And again, we have the same sort of things, temperature and max tokens, and other things that can change the output. You'll also need to know how to add your own data. You can add from Azure AI Search, Blob Storage, Cosmos DB, from the web, or you can upload files. And you need to create a new Azure Blob Storage and a new Azure AI Search resource. So this data could be some updated data, or it could be your internal company documents. And then you can say, answer the questions exclusively from these documents and give references. Now, the Azure OpenAI also allows you access to DALL-E. So here I'm using DALL-E 2. And you can see the sort of images that you can create. For example, I want to say a green meadow with a city skyline in the background. And here you can see it is generating that image. You'll also need to know how to create code which interacts with DALL-E. So if I click on Show Code, here you can see the code for Python. But if you prefer, you also can use C#. So these are the items that you need to know if you want to go for the Microsoft Applied Skills credential for Develop Generative AI Solutions with Azure OpenAI Service. Know how to use this, not just in the portal, but also with your choice of C# or Python. Now, the assessment is 2 hours. It will use an interactive lab, so it's not a quiz with A, B, C, D answers. It is actually, can you do the following tasks? And the good news is, at the time of recording, this assessment was completely free. If you don't pass, then you only need to wait 72 hours to launch it again. There is also a Microsoft Learning Path available. Now, do be careful with this learning path because it uses generally the older code. However, sometimes it accidentally invokes the later code and then you'll find your code can't run. So if you're having a problem with the learning path, then make sure you go back to the older version of the API. So these are some of the things that you should be thinking about if you want to go for the Microsoft Applied Skills assessment in Develop Generative AI Solutions with Azure OpenAI Service. If you'd like any assistance with this, then I hope you go to our website, idodata.com. And if you click on AI, you'll see that we've got a brand new course all about this Microsoft Applied Skills assessment. In a little over 3 hours, we'll go through all of the skills that you need for this Microsoft Applied Skills assessment. We'll have a look at how to connect to the GPT model, both using the earlier and the more recent libraries, both in Python, C#, and in the portal. We'll also be using your own data and generating images with DALL-E. So for more information, please go to our website, idodata.com. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, then please give it a like. And why not subscribe and click that bell? And why not comment on which Microsoft Applied Skills assessment you would like a video course made on? We currently have 6, 2 for AI, 1 for Azure, and 3 for the Power Platform. If you'd like to see more information about these Microsoft Applied Skills courses, then there is a playlist coming up at the end of this video. Why not click on it? I'm Philip Burton of idodata.com. Thanks for watching and keep learning.